Hey everybody, it's Miss Dietrich, and we're going to take a look at these equations and look at how we might consider solving them using a number line, and that will also help you to understand why we use inverse operations to solve problems like this. All right, let's take a look at the one that's on the left. N minus 6 equals negative 4. So let's think about this. We started off with some number, we subtracted 6, so that meant we went left 6, and we landed at a negative 4. So this is kind of where we landed. Now let's think about this. What would be the opposite of going left 6 on a number line? Wouldn't it be go right 6 on a number line? Let's look at that on the number line, shall we? We're going to go forward 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it looks like we have a 2. So in other words, 2 minus 6 equals a negative 4. Oops, it didn't come out very cleanly, did it? Now let's just check it and see if that makes sense. So we're at a 2. Here's a 2. We're going to go left 6. That's what this means. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And did we land at the negative 4? We sure did. Now let's take a look at how we might use algebra to figure out the same exact problem. The opposite of subtract 6, or the inverse of this, is to add 6. So we add 6 on both sides of the equation. Now this cancels out, so some teachers like to have you circle it or cross it out. We're going to bring down the n, and then you're going to think about what's a negative 4 plus 6. Now if you were going to just solve that on a number line, a negative 4 would be here. Positive 6 means go right 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we landed at a 2. So the combination of these two things, when you combine those, is a positive 2. But we already saw that it was because we explored that on a number line. All right, let's take a look at the next one, which is n plus 5 equals a negative 3. So we started out somewhere, which we don't know where that is. We went right 5 on the number line, and we added, and we ended up getting a negative 3. So this is where we ended up. Let's just put a little mark here. What's the opposite of go right 5? Isn't it go left 5? So let's kind of take a look. If we go left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. So we're at a negative 8. So let's try that. If we're negative 8 and we go right 5, do we land at a negative 3? All right, so let's kind of start over to check the equation. We're checking to see if this is true. We're starting at a negative 8. That's right here. This means go right 5, and we're seeing if we land at a negative 3. So here we are at a negative 8. We're going to go forward or to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And did we land at a negative 3 like we expected? We sure did. Now let's take a look at how we might use algebra to solve the same problem. The inverse to adding 5 is subtracting 5. We would subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. This would cancel out. And then you'd have to ask yourself, what's a negative 3 and a negative 5 combine out to be? So if we were to just look at the number line to just figure this out, negative 3 and then go left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how we know that the answer is a negative 8? We already figured that out. N equals a negative 8. All right, now let's take a look. We have time to just look at this last problem. Now, if you get freaked out by the order, you could certainly rethink this, because community property applies, is n minus a negative 2, if that made you feel better, equals 7. It's the same thing. All right, so we're at some place. We subtract 2, and we end up at the 7. So we ended up at the 7. What's the opposite of this? Wouldn't it be go right 2 instead of left 2? So let's use a different color here to make that stand out a little bit better. So that would be a 9, right? So is 9 plus a negative 2 equals 7? And the answer to that question, it sure is. 9, go left 2, and don't we get to the 7? Now, if we're going to use algebra to solve that same problem, the opposite of this is to add 2, and we would add 2 to both sides. This would cancel out. We're left with a positive n, and isn't 7 plus 2 9? We already knew that n was equal to 9. All right, I hope you found this helpful for figuring out how to solve integer equations.